What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about my biggest needs for the Patriots for this 2022 NFL Draft. I'm going to drop this one late the night before, but by the time I'm sure a lot of you are watching this, it will be Draft Day. So with that being said, happy Draft Day. Now, my first biggest need for the Patriots that they have to address in this year's draft is the cornerback position. I think this is a pretty good cornerback class, but it's going to be really interesting to see who is there at 21 and if New England even decides to jump on a cornerback at 21. Now, my favorite guy for the team is Andrew Booth. I think that he'd be a really good selection for the Patriots. We know that they've also met with Trent McDuffie. We know a guy that's also been connected to them is Kaiir Elam. But the team could also definitely go in another direction and not get a corner till day 2 or 3. Just a couple of seasons ago, New England had the best, or at least one of the best secondaries in the entire National Football League, and 2 top 10 corners in Stephon Gilmore and J.C. Jackson. And unfortunately, in today's reality, we have neither of those guys. And Jalen Mills right now is arguably your CB1. You didn't bring back Malcolm Butler, but he didn't play last season. There's a lot of question marks on, okay, how is he going to play again for his second stint in this system? Behind Jalen Mills and Malcolm Butler, you have Terrence Mitchell, Juwan Williams, Shaun Wade, who has a lot of question marks to him, and Justin Bethel, the special teamer. Now, you do also have Jonathan Jones, but Jonathan Jones is not going to play outside corner for you. He's going to stay in the slot, so didn't really include him here. Cornerback is by far the biggest need for the Patriots in this entire draft and just the entire offseason period. Now, next up on my list, and I'll say the next 2 to 3 on my list, are kind of controversial. I think this is where a lot of Patriots fans are going to kind of argue in the comment section, which is perfectly fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But next up, I have tackle. Now, I put tackle above the interior of the offensive line, like guard, center, because of the longevity at the position. Tackle is way more difficult to find than guards. Tackles are also way more valuable than guards in the NFL also. Now, New England does currently have their 2022 tackles in Isaiah Wynn and Trent Brown. They signed Trent Brown to a 2-year contract extension this offseason, but they don't have a starting left guard. And I think that's where a lot of Patriots fans are going to say you should probably put interior before tackle, but I'm not just looking at 2022. I'm looking past there also, which is what you have to do when you are drafting. Now, Isaiah Wynn has a huge 5th-year option against the cap for this 2022 season. He has big trouble staying healthy, but also he's in contract year. He very well could leave the Patriots at the end of this season. Trent Brown is signed for a 2-year extension. He's another guy who has a lot of issues staying healthy. If he stays healthy, I think he's, great for the team. That's your starting right tackle. But if he can't stay healthy, maybe the Patriots decide to end up moving on from him. So while against the depth chart, yeah, you do currently have your 2 starting tackles, we could be getting to a point where at the end of this season, you might not have one of those guys, and you might not even have another one of those guys also. Again, both of these starting tackles, both at left tackle and right tackle, in Isaiah Wynn and Trent Brown, both are very injury prone also. You're going to need guys behind them at that also. And I mean, behind them, who are you really comfortable with starting? Justin Herron or Yannick Just? I say it every time I talk about the offensive line, and I'm going to say it again. The offensive line is one of the most important parts to an entire football team, if not the most important outside of quarterback. And it's like an engine to a car, right? If the engine to your car isn't working, the engine to your car is messed up, your entire car is going to have issues. Now, with that being said, next up is going to be that interior, guard for the Patriots offensive line. And again, for the same reasons I just said about, the offensive line being one of the most important parts to a football team. But 2, the offensive line is what's going to operate your entire offense, no matter what type of scheme or styled offense you're looking to run, whether you're a run-heavy or pass-heavy team. Now, me personally, I'm really not worried about the Patriots finding a guard. You can find very good quality guard in the mid to late rounds. The Patriots got a guard/tackle in Michael Onwenu in the 6th round. The Patriots currently do have a hole at left guard. They did trade Shaq Mason to the Buccaneers this offseason. You have to assume that Michael Onwenu does slid there in at right guard. But again, that still means at left guard, you do have that hole, and that is something you absolutely have to fill. I'm not a fan of James Ferentz being your starting left guard. I know a lot of Patriots fans are high on Zion Johnson. He's another guy I really like, but for the 21st overall pick, I'm just not big on the team going offensive guard or interior of the offensive line in general. Again, I think this is a position that you could definitely get on day 2, and I'm perfectly fine with it because of how good this team is at developing offensive linemen, especially on the interior. Now, next up on my list is going to be safety, okay? And I think this is more of a little bit of an underlying issue. If you look at 2022, maybe it's not the biggest of needs. There's different routes that you could go for the 2022 season specifically, but the longevity of the safety position, I think, is something the Patriots do have to address sooner rather than later. You do have Kyle Duggar. He's still signed for a couple more seasons. You have Adrian Phillips, who the team signed to a contract extension this offseason. But then you have Devin McCourty and Jabril Peppers. Jabril Peppers is only signed on a 1-year deal, and Devin McCourty is only signed on a 1-year deal too. He's going to continue to contemplate retirement, whether it's at the end of this season or it's, a year from now. But I would say that the Patriots need to find that replacement for Devin McCourty ASAP because within a year or two, he's going to officially retire. And the Patriots are one of those teams who use several safeties in just a majority of different ways. The Patriots do play a lot of one high safety with Devin McCourty. I know they would like to play more two high safety like they did with Daron Harmon, but unfortunately have not found that replacement even for Daron Harmon yet. The Patriots also like to use a lot of their safeties as hybrid linebackers with the way that NFL offenses are really turning into pass-heavy offenses. So while safety might not be the biggest need for 2022, one, you do have to compensate for potential injuries that could happen to a key player like Devin McCourty, Adrian Phillips, or Kyle Duggar. But you also have to look at the longevity of the position and say, hey, this is a good safety class. You're going to need safeties a year from now, maybe 2 years from now. Let's get that guy in the building. And my last one for the top needs for the Patriots in this 2022 draft is going to be linebacker. And this one was really tough for me. This final one was really tough for me. I didn't know if I wanted to put wide receiver. Running back went across my mind, but I was really going back and forth with either linebacker or defensive line. Now, I think I'm one of those guys that believes the Patriots' need for a linebacker isn't as high as I think some people make it out to be. The Patriots want to get younger. They want to get faster at the position. And I think because of the unknown that we have at the position, a lot of people are saying this is an immediate need when we just have a lot of young, youthful guys that we just don't know what we're going to get out of just yet. Now, you brought back Jawan Bentley. I love that addition at middle linebacker for the Patriots. That's your lead linebacker at this point. He's going to be a leader for this core. Mack Wilson, who you traded for with the Cleveland Browns this offseason, you don't know what you're going to get from him. He hasn't panned out in the NFL just yet. You're hoping that he can make that turn with you here in New England. You don't know what you're getting from Cameron McGrone, who you drafted last year, who was on IR for that entire year. Raekwon McMillan hasn't panned out to be what the Raiders hoped he would be when they drafted him, but he looked really good for the Patriots before going out with the season-ending injury during training camp this past year. Terez Hall, you don't really exactly know what you're getting from him. You don't exactly know what you're getting from Anthony Jennings. And then you have to assume that Josh Uche or Ronnie Perkins is going to play a little bit of outside linebacker also. So the problem is that you don't know what you're getting from these guys. Like I said earlier, it's not that these guys are bad players. It's not that they aren't going to pan out for you. It's just that they're young and they haven't been given the chance to actually play. But if you're not going to give them that chance to play, then they're never going to be able to prove if they're going to be a starting piece for you or not, which is why me personally, I don't believe linebacker is, a first or second need for this team at all. I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsors of this channel, betonline.ag. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that baseball is back and the start of the Major League Baseball season is finally here. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so head to the website today or use your mobile device to join us and use our promo code CLNS50 to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. But these are going to be my top, I believe, 4 needs for the Patriots. Again, there's other routes that you could take. You can kind of mismatch these depending on what you personally believe. I could understand where you would say defensive line. I could understand where you would argue running back. But for me, these are going to be my top needs that I think the Patriots need to address in order. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on the video and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. But like always, I appreciate you guys for watching, and go Pats.